Hey guys, welcome back to my video. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're new here, it's your first time tuning into my videos, welcome to Wellness with Linda, where I talk about all things wellness. And lately, I have been focusing more on spiritual wellness. And it has been placed in my spirit ever since the beginning of this year to do videos about dreams, because one of my gifts from the Lord is dreams. I am a huge dreamer. I've been having dreams ever since I was a kid. And 2026, the Lord has been telling me to make use of my gifts and has been placed in my spirit to start doing videos where I talk about dreams in the Bible, and we look into those different dreams, and we interpret them and learn from them. And also, it's a way to understand God and his nature so that we can know more about our personal dreams, and to decipher which of our dreams that we receive are from God and which are not from God. So that is the purpose of the videos of the dreams. I'm not well versed or an expert on dreams, but it is one of the gifts that I was blessed with. And, these videos are just to encourage and for each of us to learn and to gain more understanding, wisdom, and knowledge of God and how he speaks to us. Um, so today is going to be different. While I was filming one of the videos on dreams, specifically the one on King Abimelech, it was an example of a warning dream. While filming the video, God placed it in my spirit to do a testimony video, which I'm going to do now, where it's an example of a warning dream that he gave me. um, and I did give an example of a dream in that video. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in the description box below, and I'll place it here on the link on this video so that you can go check it out. When I did give an example of a dream that I had, that was kind of like a warning dream. And while I was filming that video, the Lord placed a different dream as an example, and wanted me to share it as a testimony. I heard testimony, a separate video of a testimony, and not to link it to my videos where I go into the dreams in the Bible. Um, so this been a few weeks. This has been in my spirit to share, and I was very hesitant to do this video and kind of scared and embarrassed by this experience. It's not something that I share to a lot of people. Like, I very few people know this experience, but we're called by God to share testimony, to encourage others, and God gets the glory in the end. Just like my other videos that I do on the dreams in the Bible, I'm going to give the context before I share the actual dream that changed my life. And I'm going to share, context and to show like how God has been working behind the scenes, and, different things, so that you can understand how I knew that the dream that I got was from God, and that it was basically like a warning and plus confirmation at the same time. Before I came to America, I was in Europe. So the reason why I was in Europe is that, I went to college there. And before I went to college, I made a decision, I guess, an oath between myself and God. And I decided that, and I was going through heartbreak, from high school, being with your high school sweetheart, or, your first love, they would say. Um, I knew that I was going into a different season. I was going to a different continent. I was going on the other side of the world for the first time completely by myself. and I decided that I was going to be celibate. I wasn't going to be in any relationship while I was in college. I was going to be single the whole time. The whole time I'm in Europe, I was going to be single. I wanted to. This decision was made because of grew up in a strict household. You know, I wasn't allowed to go to parties and stuff like that. I grew up in a Christian household. You know, went to church with my mom and my siblings. My dad didn't go to church with us, but he believed in God. But he was more like, you know, you guys go to church, you guys grow in your faith, and he will stay home. So I made this oath and this declaration, this decision, I guess, when I was 19, or was it 18? 18 going to 19, that I wouldn't get into a relationship, that I'll be single the whole time. I wanted to enjoy, you know, I learned to be independent, really be independent, even though when I was in high school, in boarding school, you do kind of learn to be independent, but it's not to the large. You're still in school and your parents still pay for you and you still get pocket money. You know, this is a little taste of independence. And my husband always says that I went to a Harry Potter school because I went to a boarding school in the mountains. Um, and we use the same like phrases that they do in Harry Potter. Anyway, so yeah, so this would be my first time like really being independent. And also, I wanted to make sure that I graduated from school because my parents were paying a lot of money to go to the school in Europe, which I went to Switzerland. So very expensive, no scholarship. Um, and, you know, and I didn't want to have any regrets. I didn't want anything to hinder me from experiencing as much as I could, um, going to, you know, Switzerland, and I wanted to get the most of that experience because it's a once in a lifetime going to somewhere as Switzerland. Like people dream to go there for vacation. It's like, you know, it's known as a place where rich people, you know, go to. It's the air is clean. It's like beautiful. The water is, I mean, it doesn't get any cleaner than Switzerland. So yeah, so I made that decision, and you understand why I mentioned this. Okay. Um, and and I stick to it the whole time I'm there. And then I come to uh, America because I was offered an internship working at the Hilton, and because the school I went to was a hospitality school. So I got a job working at the Hilton in the accounting department. So, and you know, things were going great. You know, I did get culture shock from very different to Europe, and of course very different to the way I lived in Africa. So but made some friends, and they ended up being my roommates. They were from Korea. Love them. And we lived in a condo, a 3-bedroom condo, um, for a year together, which was amazing. Like God really blessed us. It was like 5 minutes away from the beach, beautiful condo, and like everybody who'd come to visit us were like, "Oh my gosh, how did you guys get this condo? It's so hard for students slash interns to get condos because you know they've had a lot of these rental like agencies. They've had issues with students, you know, messing up apartments and condos, and you know they have specific areas that they give to interns, and we were like the only people who got condo in the certain area that we got. So yeah, so that is going on, and of course as time goes by we are in this town called Marco Island. If you know, this is in Southwest Florida. It's mostly rich people who live there, people who are retired, people with holiday homes. You know, snowbirds come to live there, and they have like, you know, they beautiful condos, they houses by the beach. So it's really not a place where you see a lot of young people. A lot of us that live there we are immigrants who are there for internship at, you know, hotels, because there's a bunch of hotels there. There's a bunch of restaurants. So it's either they work in a hotel or a restaurant or a bar, you know, things to do with hospitality. So as time goes by, we everybody starts going into relationship, and I am like the third wheel. And you know how it is when you're the third wheel. You just sometimes you feel, out of place. You feel lonely, even though they include you. They don't make you feel like, you're a burden. As time goes by, you start to feel a certain type of way. This is when the enemy starts to, attack your thoughts. You start thinking all these things like, oh my gosh, will I even find somebody? Everybody's taken. I'm not pretty enough. No one is interested in me. All these things. And it starts affecting the way you feel about yourself, your self-esteem. You start like feeling lonely, like there's something wrong with you. And at first didn't feel that way. I was like, was happy with that I was celibate, that I, single. I didn't have anybody to consult to if I needed to go out and all this stuff. Like, I was free. I had a lot of freedom, and I enjoyed it. But as time went by, we would go to Miami to, this is when you start having those things when you go to like places, like you go to Miami with your friends and, their boyfriend, and, they're, booed up, and you're just there, you're having a good time, but, it's just you. And sometimes guys would like, try and talk to me, and it's just like, nah, I'm not interested. And a lot of times, sometimes I would say it'll be like older men, and it's just like, no, I'm not interested in old men. And sometimes be like, ew, gross, older guys. Um, it's like really much older, like 50s, 60s. I'm like, no, no, sir. But then, I stayed single the whole year that I had the internship. Um, no, not the whole year, sorry. So I stayed single for a while, and then, I became friends with um, one of my coworkers. She ended up being like my best friend. And I'm going to give like different name to the people in the story, because another reason why I didn't want to share the story is because, other people are involved, and I don't like to share stories with these other people involved. I became really close friends with all of my coworkers, and like she became like a mom to me. She saw me as her best friend and really got along. She was short, long, dark hair. I think she was like half Mexican with Indian. Like she was like mixed, beautiful lady, and she had kids in another state because she was from another state, and that were my age. This was when I was in my early 20s. And she had grandkids, so she would see me as her daughter, her other daughter, and my husband too. When I met him, she'd be like, "Oh, kids!" Whenever she would see us, "Hey, my kids." So yeah, and so I got close with her, and she had a friend in Miami who she had history with. Like I think they grew up together, or they were in high school together. I don't remember, and they kind of had like, on and off thing going on, but they were really um they had each other's back and all that stuff. Like they had a long history. So so I went with her one time to Miami, and this was like, I had gone before with other friends, and this was my first time going with her, going on a long trip. And we went to visit her friend. I don't remember his name, but we call him David. We went to visit him, and he had his stepson with him, which I'll name Samuel. Name Samuel, stepson with him, and we were like, me and his stepson were like around the same age. We started talking, and I was like, "Oh, he's a really nice guy." I was like talking and all that stuff. And it was good to talk to, hang out with someone that was the same age as me, and I wasn't like the third wheel for my friend and her and her friend David. So so we hung out, I think, for like a whole day, and then we drove back to Mark Island, and that was that. And I think I did give Samuel my number. Yes, I did. And we started talking, texting, and this was around the time where I was telling you that I was starting to feel like, maybe I'm ready to like getting into the dating pool again, and I'm just like starting to feel like, oh, lonely, because my friends were always having plans with they with their boyfriends. um and then uh and then I think I went again. I'd been talking to Samuel for a bit, and then I think we went again to Miami to visit um my friend's uh my friend's friend. I'll call her Lisa, my friend Lisa, and her to see her friend David. And of course, Simon was with him. I was like, oh, okay, we get to see him again, because I was like, he's like pretty easygoing, got a good vibe going, and whatever. And we've been getting to know each other over the phone and all that stuff. So then, um, we start talking and hanging out and all that stuff. And I don't remember. There was a reason we went to Miami. It wasn't only to visit them, but I think there was something else my friend Lisa wanted over there. So we went, and we spent the whole day together, like me and Samuel, and he was like, "Oh, would you like to make it official? Like be my girlfriend?" And I hesitated a little bit. I was like, and I could, in my spirit, and I know, looking back, I know it was a spirit, but I was like, oh, my subconscious was like saying, like, say no. And, you know, I think the way I answered, I was like, yeah, okay. It sounded like I was like a little bit unsure, but at the same time, I was like, I've been wanting to be, maybe I'm ready to date again. It's been almost like 6 years. By this time, it's been almost I think about 6 years I've been single. Um, and before this, I've had many temptations, and I was able to like resist going into a relationship. But this time, I was just like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I guess, I'm sure. Like, I wasn't like 100% sure, because I know in my spirit it was just like, say no. No, you should not be in this relationship. Like, stay friends. That's why I could hear in my spirit, like, stay friends, say no. But I ignore it, and I'm like, because I'm listening to like, oh, you've been complaining that you're lonely. This is now, and you've been saying that there's no options in Marco Island because there's a lot of old men. All the guys that are your age are all taken, excuse me, are taken. So, hey, now there's somebody that is interested in you, just say yes. And then, my spirit's like, no, do not go into this relationship. No. So, of course, I ignore my spirit. And I want to say this, a side note, sometimes, I hope you can see from the story that, sometimes we get ourselves into trials and tribulations, and to some, I guess, wilderness seasons, or like into like cycles of like things not going well in our life, because of the decisions that we make, the actions that we take. And it's not always the devil. It's not always a Job season where the Lord allows it for something to happen for, so that you can grow, or so that you can learn something, or so that you can mature in your spiritual life. Sometimes it's the trials and tribulations we go through is because it's our own fault, and we have to really look back and be like, hey, what decisions did I make that has led me to this position that I'm in right now, that is undesirable, that is uh that I am having all these issues, that I'm experiencing all this warfare. It's not always the devil. Sometimes we give the devil a lot of power. Yes, he did, play on my feelings, because I did give him access by, you know, him play with my feelings, because we do open doors for the devil to do, act on, and deceive us and lie to us. But we also have a choice. God gave us, the will to make a choice whether to go one way or go the other. So, we have the power to make those choices and those decisions to choose a right path. And sometimes we choose a wrong path, which leads to a lot of trials and tribulations. And now we just have to course correct and seek the Lord and repent for our sins. So that decision that I made was a wrong decision. I could have said no and just been like, you know what, let's just continue to be friends, because I really don't know each other that well to go into a relationship. But no, I decided to um, listen to my feelings of loneliness, and also dealing with the spirit of people pleasing. And, I had this idea that I didn't want to be alone forever. We're so dramatic when we're in situations that we find undesirable, but it's for a reason. Anyway, so we get into this relationship, and you can see that he's happy, he's excited. And I'm kind of excited, kind of happy, but deep down, it's just like, I could just feel like I just, I don't think I made the right decision. But you know what? Oh well, I'm his girlfriend now, so now I just have to, see where it goes. Maybe things will work out. He seems like a great guy. He treats me with respect. We have good conversations. We get along. Hey, maybe this will work out. So, you know, um, we obviously, it's kind of long distance, I guess, because he's in Miami. I'm Marco Island. It's like a 2-hour drive. I didn't have a car. He didn't have a car. Of course, I didn't have a car because I've only been in the country like a year, like almost a year. Um, so the only thing I had was a bike. But I enjoyed it because I didn't have that many bills. And, I had money in the savings account. Like, I had no debt. It was awesome. So I really didn't care to have a car because I was so used to the European lifestyle of not having a car and walking everywhere and riding everywhere or take public transport. It kept me fit because I never went to the gym. I would either work out at home or I'd do a lot of walking. So I was really small back then. People say I'm small now. I was really small back then. Oh my gosh, I'm on 31 minutes already. So, and speed it up. So, we're in this relationship. And, my friend, she's happy. She's like, oh my God, that is so cute. She sees us like her kids, like, like my babies are, together. And, stepdad too, he liked me, and, it's like, you're a good girl. And I guess he did like tell us that, take care of her, that's a good girl, because of course he knows my friend, and he knows that my friend has a good judgment of character. And since we are very close, he's like, yeah, I know that she's a good one. So basically, it's like, take care of her. And, and he really, liked me a lot, his stepdad. So yes, that happened. Um, I'm in Marcana. So we're basically the relationship in the beginning is just, us talking on the phone, texting, calling. I'm working. I don't know what he was doing, like what kind of job he was doing or whatever. Again, we showed I didn't know much about him, so I had no business of being in a relationship with him. Um, and then things changed because now the year my internship is coming to a close. My roommates are going to be leaving soon, and that means that my contract at the condo I was staying was coming to an end. So I had to move out. My roommates went back to South Korea, because that's where they were from. So now I was alone, and a lot of the people that we hung out with did leave. So it was just me and my friend Lisa left, and I ended up, we got an apartment together because I had to leave my condo. I couldn't afford it by myself. Um, so yeah, so I moved in with her, and 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 yeah, and then I had two. Then there was one moment I had I had another opportunity to go to Miami again. This is like the following year, and with two of my friends, and we had gone to school together in Switzerland, and one of them we actually used to go to high school together. So it's really good friends of mine, and they wanted to go to Miami, to have fun, have like a girls trip. They were coming from another city in Florida, uh, further up, like I think I would say like 4 hours away from me. And they were like, okay, let's go to Miami. And, I told them that, yeah, I'm dating a guy, he's American. And it was my first time dating a foreigner because the other guys I dated before were, from my country, Zimbabwe. And it's like, and they're like, oh, that's cool. Um, so then I'm all excited, I get to hang out with my girls, we go to Miami, have fun for the weekend. And while we're in Miami, of course, tell them like, hey, I'm in Miami, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, oh, can I join you guys? And then I asked him, oh, is it okay if we can join you guys? Because one thing about me is that when I'm hanging out with my girls, I don't want the guys around. Even now while I'm married, like if it's a girls' night, it means a girls' night. No guys allowed. I really am intentional about the time I spend with my friends. Like if I make plans with my girlfriends, is to spend time with you. And if it's like no kids allowed or no guys allowed, I honor that. So then, I asked him, I was like, oh, do you guys want him to come over? You want to meet him? It's okay if you don't want to, don't worry about it. And they're like, oh, no, it's okay. He can come over. So he came, he had dinner, and, dinner with us, and they enjoyed his company. We had a good time. We were on the strip of Miami. And then it was time for us to go to the hotel. And then he's like, hey, can I join you guys? Can I join you guys on your, this girls trip of yours, the whole weekend? And deep down, I was just like, I hope my friends say no and say that, oh, it's just us girls hanging out because we haven't seen each other in a while. So this is our time to catch up. This is what I was hoping they would say to him, because I was like, I'm not one of those people who would be like, oh, I want my boyfriend to tag along, even though you guys don't have, guys with you. I'm not like that. I really genuinely wanted to spend time with him. But then they were like, yeah, it's fine. He can join us. I was like, are you sure, guys? Like, this, it's about us hanging out together. And they're like, sure, yeah. I should have said, no, you know what? We can hang out another time. I'll come back and we can hang out. This is my time with my girls. I should have said that and not depended on my friends to, you know, to tell him that. And this is because I was dealing with the spirit of people pleasing. So I was just like, I didn't want to be like the bad girlfriend, like, and be mean in front of my friends, and also be a bad girlfriend and be like, no, you can't hang out with us. This is our girl time. So he joined us, came with us to the hotel and hung out with us the whole weekend. I was like, which I didn't want, but I was like, okay, just make the best of it. And, I felt bad the whole time because it's like, I really wanted to spend time with my girls. And, I just felt like, it was kind of awkward that he was around. But anyway, they were good sports about it. And, I love them. I have amazing friends. And they were understanding. And then, at the end of the weekend, of course, he stayed in Miami. And then um, we, we left, and then I took them to their, where they live. And then I came back to Marco Island. So, and they enjoyed it. They were like, it was so nice, just to hang out, um, and have fun. But, I still felt bad that he was part of, the trip. And then again, and then I went a little bit later, and I think maybe like a month later, I don't know, went back to Miami with my friend Lisa, not with my friends from school. My friend Lisa, we go to Miami, and then the biggest mistake ever, the second biggest mistake I made was we're leaving to come back. You know, we hung out with them as usual. We had a good time in Miami, and we are, we're, getting ready to leave. And then Samuel's like, "Oh, can I come with you guys?" And I was just like,
What?
"As in, you want to come for the weekend, or like, what do you mean?" And it's just like, "Oh, to stay with you guys for some time. Maybe I can, stay with you guys at your place. I kind of tired of Miami, and maybe I can find like good like job opportunities over there where you're at." And I don't remember what else he said, but basically it was just like sick of Miami, and he just wanted to like to be in a different environment. And he's like, "Oh, can I stay with you guys?" And I was just like, and then my friend Lisa, she's so loving, and I love her, and she was just like, "Yeah, I mean, that's fine. You can stay with us if And she's like, "If that's what you want." And I hesitated. And again, my spirit is just like, say no, say no. And I was like, okay, it's just, it caught me off guard because it's like he had already packed and all that stuff. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And okay, I guess, in my head, I was like, I guess. I was like, yeah, sure. Now, this was hard for me and very, I guess, uncomfortable because one, my culture, and also being a Christian, like, don't shack up with who you are dating, especially if you're not going to be, it's not someone that you're planning to marry, you know. And also as a Christian, the Lord does not like us to be living with somebody that you are not in covenant with, that you're not married to. So, and I had never been in that kind of situation where I live with a guy that I am dating. Never been in that situation before. So this was like, oh my gosh, out of my comfort zone. And I was like, this is weird. And I'm not used to this. I don't think it's the right move. And still, I don't know you that well. And I don't think we're in a position to live together. Big mistake number two. First mistake was, being, accepting to be his girlfriend. The second big mistake was to say yes to him moving into our apartment and living with us. So he comes and he joins us. And then that's when it started to see like his true colors. Like, it kind of started to kind of feel like I was his mom, like taking care of him. Like, I started telling him like, like you need to find a job, because it's not cheap to live in Mark Island. Even though it's two of us living here, it can be pricey. So that's an extra mouth to feed. So you do have to play your part. Can't be just chilling in here like it's a vacation. This may be a vacation area, but this is not a vacation. So you need to find a job. And I end up, doing his resume for him. Looking on Craigslist back in the day. You could find jobs on Craigslist. Going on Craigslist, looking for jobs. I've only been in the country a little over a year, and I'm doing all this research and looking for jobs for him. I mean, he's American, he could do it himself, but I like helping people, so I was helping him do that. And then I would tell him, hey, you have an interview. I sent your resume to this place. You have an interview to this place. Make sure you're there at this time, and this is the person you're going to be interviewed by. And then, it didn't take long. I think he was able to, within a week or two or three, he did find um a job. So that was great. So now he could help us with like the bills, and started to realize like, hygiene was kind of an issue. So it's like I had to like kind of like groom him. Like I just felt like I was like taking care of him. And which is another thing you shouldn't do. You shouldn't be like helping a guy or like treating him like you're his mother or take care, because we like, as women, genuinely like to take care. Oh God, I'm on 45 minutes. But yeah, so I was just like, so I just started to see little things that like I just didn't like, the whole hygiene. Like, it would come back from work all sweaty and just like lay down on the bed, and it's like, no, you need to go clean, shower, freshen up, and all that stuff. Then you can lay on the bed. You need to, don't want to be walking around, the apartment with dirty shoes, trying to keep it clean. Like, this apartment would get like dirty easily. Like, there'll be dust easily. It was just weird. Like, it would get like so dusty so easily. So it's constantly cleaning. And, it's just, there were different things that he would do that I just like, mm. And of course, it tried to be like, it'd be intimate, but I would try to like go all the way and it wouldn't happen. I'd be like, oh no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And I feel like that was the Lord like stopping me from like going all the way, all the way intimacy wise. And then there came a time where like, so I was like on a certain type of visa, and I think we had the disc, and forgot to mention, well, I was getting to know him. He told me that he has a son, but his son is not with him, and he doesn't have a good relationship with the baby mama, the mother of the son. I don't remember how old his son was, but it was probably like pre-K age. And he'll tell me hear things about his son. I was like, oh, that's great. I'm like, it'll be nice to meet him. And but he did not have a good relationship with the mother of his son, and he would say stuff about her that would make me uncomfortable. Like, yeah, I could tell that he despised her, and that was a huge red flag. I was like, oh no. Like, I just started like thinking, like, if I was to have a kid with him and then things didn't go well, this is the way you talk about me, is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So, I was very conscious of that. If he's talking this way about somebody, it's like, you were once in a relationship with her. You loved her at one point, and now it's like you despise this person. Like, it's the person you like. I never even heard any conversations he's had with her, or the whole time he lived with me. Like, I I don't think I ever heard him speak on the phone with his son, maybe text message to the mother and saying like, hey, how's my son doing? So I could see that there was no good relationship there, and that was a huge red flag. And then there was so many other red flags. And then we had a conversation about how, I, maybe leaving the country soon because my visa was going to expire and all this stuff. And I just didn't know what I was going to, I had my eyes set on moving to Canada. I just always wanted to go to Canada. Even ever since I was in Switzerland, I've been trying to go to Canada and it just wouldn't work out. And I was like, I've been trying so hard to, I may be looking into moving to Canada once, my visa's done and I see like I can't really stay any longer in the country. And then he started like talking about, about marriage, like, oh, I'd like to marry you and all that stuff. And I think that'd be great. I think I'm in love with you and all this stuff. And I'm just like, and normally when, girls are excited when they hear that the guy that they're dating is like thinking of marriage, like, oh my gosh, like we're going somewhere, you don't have to have that conversation. And like, what are we doing here? What's the next step in the relationship? Like I didn't have to have that conversation. Like this guy was already talking about marriage. And I was just like, a bit too soon about talking about that because we've only been together for a few months. I'm not in a rush, to get married. Like I was single for a long time, so I'm not in a rush. And and then there was one time we were by the pool and he's talking about that. And I'm just like, my chest is tightening a little bit. I'm just like, something doesn't feel right about this conversation. Like I was not excited about it. Just like, it felt like it was just going too fast. And I'm just like, he's not the one. He is not the one. Even though he feels like he's ready for, marriage and all that stuff. It's like, there's just certain things that are bothering me about him. And I was like, I don't love this guy. I like him, but not love. And I could discern that there was something So one night I have this dream, and in the dream, it's like I'm having a conversation with him, and then I like I discover something about him, and I'm unhappy about something. And in basically in the dream, I'm like breaking up with him. I'm like, this relationship does not work. We're not meant to be. It's over. I think this should not, this won't work. This relationship won't work. And it felt so real, to the point that, I don't exactly remember what was going on in the dream, but I was basically ending the relationship. Like, the relationship was just not going well. Like, in the dream, it was like God was showing me, like, this is not, that he was not pleased with the relationship. And it felt so real, to the point that I woke up thinking that I had broken up with him already. And I was just like, and I woke up and it's like, and I look, and he's beside me and he's sleeping, and I was like, and I was just like, is that a sign that I should break up with him? And I don't know what to do. And I was just like, and I knew that I was like, I just don't feel right. Like, I just don't feel like he's the one for me. I feel like this relationship is just not meant to be. But I had doubts. Um, but then I have another dream, and in the dream again, it's just like God showing me that, that he's not the right guy for me. I don't exactly remember what was going on, but I was like breaking up with him, and I was like having a conversation telling that it's just not going to work. This has to end. Like, we're not meant to be together. And and it was just showing me that, it just, this relationship is just not God ordained, I guess. It's just not God ordained, that we're just not meant to be. Is that I need to end the relationship soon. And after that dream, I was like, okay, that was like confirmation that, okay, this is like the red flags, like what I'm discerning is right. Like, or that I should stop ignoring all these red flags that I was seeing. I can't remember all the red flags, but I was like, okay, I really do need to end the relationship. Like, I just did not see him the same way that I did in the beginning. I was getting annoyed by little things. And another thing about me was that I just did not like confrontations. So I was just like, how am I going to break up with him? Because it's just like, not like he was doing anything that I could be like, you've been doing this consistently, so I think we should break up. So it was just like, there was no window for me to like break up with me, if you can break up with him, if you can understand that. And I don't remember praying about it. And mind you, I didn't even pray for the dream. The dream just happened. And I really wasn't paying attention to my dreams before the situation. I don't remember dreaming that much. It felt like my dreams halted for a while. But yeah, this was like the first like prophetic dream that I received, like really powerful, strong dream that was just like telling me like this has to end, like a warning dream. And I was just like, how am I going to break up with him? Like, I need a way. I'm talking to myself. I'm not even praying. I'm like, I need a way to like have an excuse to break up with him. And I think I mentioned it to Lisa, like, like, I don't think I'm happy in the relationship. I don't think it's the right relationship for me. And she was like understanding and all that. And, God is good. He answers our desires even before we ask, even when we're just speaking to ourselves, he answers our desires. And I remember just trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to break up with him? What excuse can I give? Because I knew in my spirit, like, if I just outright say like, okay, this has to end, I'd have to have a good reason why. And he was going to fight it. And it was going to be very hard for me. And also I had to consider like, where is he going to stay? Because he doesn't have a car. He can't really go back to Miami. I guess he told his stepdad he's not coming back. So I guess he was not expecting him back. So he didn't really know anybody. And I forgot to tell you guys, he did become friends with my guy friends that were boyfriends to my roommates. So my friends left, and they were having a long distance relationship with them, and he became really good friends with Samuel. So we would all go to church together and all that stuff. And he started like hanging out with them sometimes without me. So it was like great, at first. It was like really good. Like he was getting along with them, and that was awesome. It's like that's what you want, the person you're dating to get along with your friends. So those are the only people he knew besides me. Those the three guys that that were my friends. So it's like, okay, I really need a good reason to break up with this guy. So God gave me that reason. So one night, I don't remember, he's like, he wanted to hang out with, um, my guy friends. And he's like, I'm going to go out and hang out with them. And I think I didn't go because it was just like a guy thing. And I'm one of those people, like, if you want to hang out with your boys, that's fine. I don't need to be there. Have fun, enjoy. Just like, I'm going to hang out with my girls. You don't need to be there. And I'm going to have fun with my girls and whatever. And be respectful. So he's like, I'm going to go out, hang out with the boys. Is that okay without you? And I was like, yeah, sure, have fun. And I was like, but make sure you come back at a good time because I was like working at Dunkin' and I would start work at like 4:30. So I had to wake up early. And I was like, come at a good time because he didn't have the keys to the apartment. So I had to open for him, which means waking up. I was like, please come back at a good time. Don't come late, like at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. Like come at least by 11, 10, 11. At least I'll still be awake. I can let you in and, and can go back to bed. So like, don't be going late at night. And I was like, if you come back late, I'm not waking up to open the door for you. Now, this may seem dramatic for some of you, be like, really not a big deal. But this was a way to see that he respects my wishes, and also when people show you who they are, believe them. First time, believe them. So, and my friend Lisa heard me say this, and then she's like, "Yeah, you better stick to your guns. If he's gonna," she's like, "Because I'm not even going to wake up either." She's like, because she had to wake up early for work too, and it's like, if he's gonna come in late at night, really late at night, you're like, better make sure you don't open the door for him like you told him. Stick to your guns. Because she knew that, I don't like confrontation and that, she's like, I'm too nice and, I need to put my foot down. So, he's out with, my friends, the guy friends. And, I'm looking at the time and 10 o'clock passes. He's not home. 11 o'clock passes, not home. And just like, and my friend is just like, no, keep what you see. It's already late and he's not yet back. And granted, it's not far away. And, my friends were going to bring him home. So it's not like he was walking back home because Long Island is small. You can walk. There are times I walked at late at night and, it's pretty safe back then. I don't know about now. So they would drive him back, which takes like about 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. There's no traffic. It's an island. So I go to bed and this guy comes home at like, I think it was like 1 in the morning and knocks on the door and said, hey, can you open the door? And I said, he knocks on the door a couple of times and I'm a heavy sleeper. So I don't know how long he had been by knocking on the door. And then I was just like, I look at the time and it's like, are you kidding me right now? So I tell him like, no, you're not coming in. Remember what I said. I'm not opening the door for you. You're going to go back where you came from. And it's like, oh, are you serious? It's like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I lost track of time, blah, blah, blah. I was like, you have to respect my time. And this shows that you do not respect my time. You do not respect my wishes. So you need to go back where you came from. And, it was like 10 minutes of back and forth. And then he finally left. And he's like, where am I going to go? I was like, go back where you came from. Go back to the guys. Go back to their place. And he's like, they already left. You can walk there. You know how to get there. Like I said, it's Mark Island. You can walk. And I mean, it's probably like a 35-minute walk, whatever. And I was like, well, you have to face the consequences of not listening to my wishes. So he went. Oh my gosh, I'm on 1 hour. And then, yeah, I was like, and then he sent a message and I was like, it's done. It's over. I don't remember what exactly I said, but I told him, I was like, that's it. Like, you disrespected me. I told you to come home a certain time and you didn't. And so it's not going to work. You can't live here. I'll let you come back and come and get your stuff. but yeah, you can't stay here anymore. After that relationship, I was just like, Lord, I don't care if I'm single for 10 years or longer. I do not want to be in a relationship after that. I really don't want to be in a relationship. And I remember my friend, he says like, oh, I want to hook you up with somebody, you really like him and all that. And I was like, I'm not interested. Get this about I am let me see. I'm working at Dunkin', and and that's where my husband was working at too. And my friend was trying to like match us up, but we just started hanging out as friends because I was just like, I don't want to date. And during that time, I'm hanging out with my husband, and he was my friend at that time, and another friend of ours, he was a guy. We were the three of us would always hang out. I think a month or two, well, I'll say a month into like us hanging out, we're at my apartment, and I hear a loud knock on my door. It's like boom, 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 and I'm just like, not many people. I didn't know a lot of people at this time because again, a lot of my friends had left by this time. They had gone to another state, they'd gone back to their country, and I see these two figures at, through my window, see these two figures at my door, and I'm just like, I don't know. I was like, it's the only person I could think of is the landlord. And I was like, oh, but it's not time to pay rent, so it's not the landlord. I open the door, is two police officers. I'm like, okay. And I know I was confused. It's like, oh, maybe they're looking for somebody and they're just knocking on different doors because, like, I know I didn't do anything wrong because I really kept to myself. I would work, come home. That's it. I didn't have a car, so I never had any interaction with the cops until this moment. All were looking for Samuel. I'm like, okay. I'm like, how do they? I'm new to the country. I'm like, yeah, I've only been to the country a year and a half, and I'm just like, how do they know that I was like dating this person? And they're like, oh, we're looking for Samuel. And I was just like, okay. And they're like, is he here? And I'm like, no, he's not here. And like, do you know where he is? And I'm like, no, I broke up with him a while ago. I don't know. I don't have any contact with him. And I think he had changed his number by that time. So I don't know where he is. Like, because before that happened, I think my friend told me that he actually left because he wasn't with them. I noticed he wasn't with them at church. And I was like, oh, what happened? And then they're like, oh, he left and he went back to another state, like where he's from, because his mother was there. When we're dating, he did tell me that his mother lived there and that's where he was from. He wasn't from Miami. So I was like, oh, so they're like, oh, I guess he went back there. He didn't really give them details of where he was going. And so yeah, they're like, yeah, he left. So I guess he just didn't like it anymore, or he didn't like his job anymore. So he decided to go back home. So I was like, the last time I heard he left to that state. So I really don't know anything. They're like, oh, can we check, if can we check your apartment to make sure? And I was like, sure. Why are you looking for him? And then they're like, oh, there's a warrant for his arrest. Now I didn't ask because I didn't care, I it was not in my life anymore. I was just like, okay, I don't know. I didn't ask why there was a warrant for his arrest. They're like, yeah, there's a warrant for his arrest, and so they look on the apartment, which was pretty small. It was a one bedroom, and they see he's not there, and they're like, okay, let us know if you hear anything. I don't know if they gave me their card or whatever. And then yeah, they left, and my husband and my friend were there. My husband, well, he was my friend at the time. They were both there in the kitchen, and they could see everything that was happening. And they're like, what was that about? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't know that he was in trouble with the law. And, because I had told them about the relationship. And, my husband was like, oh, that you could have said no, they don't have to come in to your house. You have the right to say no, because it's your place. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And I was like, but anyway, I didn't want them to think I have something to hide. I have nothing to hide. So even even if I knew that, I was going to let them in anyway, just to let them know, like, hey, I have nothing to hide. He's not hiding here. I don't know where he is. I have no contact with him. So yeah. So after that, I was just like, thank you, Lord, that I broke up with him. And I now know that was the Lord protecting me, because the Lord knew that he was doing something illegal, or he was running away from something, and he was going to be in trouble. I think he did something in Miami. That's why he moved to stay with me. And maybe he knew that it was catching up to him, and that's why he moved back to be home with his mom. So yeah, that is my testimony. So I'm sorry it's this long. Probably won't watch till the end, but if you did watch till the end, thank you for tuning in. And it's because of that dream it changed my life. I started taking my dreams seriously. I started, like, going on that journey of rebuilding my relationship with God. And I hope that was encouraging for you guys, and you learned something from it. And yeah, that dream saved my life and was life changing. And it just shows how great God is and how merciful he is, how graceful he is, because he didn't have to do that. He could have just let me just continue dating this guy, and who knows if we would get married. And like, it was going to be bad, guys. It was going to be bad if I didn't break up with him. So yeah, that's it for today. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy my content, and I'll see you next video. Bye.